Internet, and welcome to the Free-to-Play Cast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka magicman. It's November 11th. We're recording episode 159. You're watching it on November 12th or later. Blizzcon was last week. We've got some other free-to-play news. We had a third host for this week, but camera problems. We'll bring her on next week. Q, we love you. We'll see you next week. So that means it's just me, and you know who. Mr. Jason Winter, how are you?
Are you scared? It's just you and me.
I'm frightened. I'm frightened by this.
Are you frightened by the... Oh, because Zach's not here, I'm doing the Justin Bieber hair a little bit.
That's decent of you. That's you're a good guy.
Trying to cover, yep. But I still have my legs.
You didn't cut your legs off.
Cut my legs off.
Well, we had BlizzCon, so we're going to talk about some free-to-play stuff and some, well, now it's not free-to-play stuff. So let's slide over and get started with the news. We've got Hearthstone, we've got Heroes of the Storm, we've got Overwatch, which we assumed was going to be free-to-play, incorrectly, as it turns out, and we kind of stumbled upon that rationale a few weeks ago on one of these episodes. Obviously, World of Warcraft was the big dog again at BlizzCon. Not much to say, except, we're a free-to-play site, so, good luck. And Legion, of course, their new expansion isn't going to come out until next fall, so... I don't know. Do your dailies. I don't know. No clue. I have no clue. But other than that, Overwatch, let's get that out of the way. I know you have some stuff you want to talk about on Hearthstone and Heroes of the Storm and things like that, but the big dog was Overwatch. All of a sudden, not free to play. It is getting a console release, though. However, the game is going buy to play, so it will have a box fee. One of the collector sets is upwards of like $130 USD. Initially, hit me in the gut. I kind of thought, bad decision, right? There's a lot of competition that's kind of in this area already, and a lot more coming down the road, and maybe this wasn't the best choice. After I let it sit for a while, though, I gotta say it kind of made sense, and judging from Twitter, I think you kind of had the same gut reaction and then change of heart. Is that fair to say?
Pretty much. I know, like, Zach and I were going back and forth a little bit on Twitter about the same sort of thing, that we were just like, huge mistake not to be free to play, but yeah, after a while, after thinking about it, like over the weekend and everything, and I did the article on it earlier this week, I thought it seemed really like the better idea for Blizzard, because the main argument being all those games you talk about, Gigantic or what's it called, Lawbreakers or Paladins or Battlecry, anything like that. Battleborn is another one, but that's not going to be free to play. But anyway, but all those other games coming out, they're all going to be free to play, and we sort of think off the top of our heads, well, if there's a $60 game and there's a bunch of free-to-play games, free-to-play ones are going to get a lot more attention. And on some level that is true, but on the other hand, we're all just assuming they'll be good and successful, and they might not be. I mean,
true.
Overwatch might not be too. Maybe it'll be kind of crappy, but it's basically it's essentially a 50-50 proposition whether they will or won't. And being Blizzard and being having the resources that they have to make a good game, they're basically just betting on that. They're saying we're going to be a good game. People are going to want to pay $60 for us. And maybe the other games won't be that great. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. If they are great, then we'll adjust to it, somewhere along the way. But for the moment, we can charge for this, get some good money in the house, and make changes later on if we need to.
I got to say, though, that they lost the me's of the world on this one. And I know that there's more people that are going to buy it than the me's of the world. But the me's of the world... One of right. Q is definitely going to buy this, as we were talking about on the free-to-play cast that you'll never see because we're throwing that out due to camera issues on Q's side. But they did lose the me's of the world. That, okay, it's not my type of game, generally speaking, but it's Blizzard. I generally don't have any problem with the quality of their products, and so I'll give it a whirl. I'm not going to be shelling out money for it simply because it's just, okay, if it's not free to play, there's nothing that makes me want to play it now because it's just not my type of gameplay, where if it were free to play, I would have given it a shot simply based on the Blizzard name and everything I've seen about it. And for crying out loud, at BlizzCon last year, it was playable, and a lot of people thought it should have just rolled into beta then. That means it's got to mean a year later it's in even a better shape. So while it does cost you the me's of the world up front, I think based on the way they want you to have access to all the characters and swap them on the fly and not have to worry about, did I buy this character? Did I buy this type of character? Did the person I'm playing with buy all of these characters? Not having to worry about that, I think, is ultimately a good move for this type of game. Provided, later on down the road, they don't go free-to-play and screw it all up, right?
Yeah, because I mean that's what they said was a major reason for them having to go buy to play was that they had to. This is how the game was designed. It was designed that you could swap out your heroes. They wouldn't have a limited number like in a free rotation or some other kind of get 5 heroes and have to buy later ones with currency or whatever. They wanted to do it that way because that's how the game was meant to be able to swap around. But if you're going to say that, and then later on, if they do switch to free to play, then they really need to change something so that that's not required. Otherwise, I brought this up in my article. I said, Elder Scrolls Online said, oh, we have to have a sub fee. The game it wouldn't be the same. It would be a lesser game without a sub fee. And then, of course, they got rid of the sub fee, and I was like, well, okay, how's the game lesser now?
Right,
well, what did you screw up then to make it?
And they didn't make any substantial change to the system. I could see this one down the road where, okay, we've gotten all of our development money back. We made a boatload of cash. We're swimming Scrooge McDuck style in dollar bills. Every time I think of that, I just think of Family Guy when Peter Griffin jumps into all of his gold coins and breaks every bone in his body.
I just think of actual old Scrooge McDuck comics that I had as a kid. But okay, your thing. You kids and your Family Guy.
Your newfangled technology. But I feel like if they converted it to free-to-play at some point down the road, it would become a skins and cosmetics game. A hats game, if you will.
Yeah, but again, the main point is the gameplay. Because if they don't change the gameplay so that you do kind of require all this stuff, then they were just feeding us a line of BS by saying, oh, we have to have it this way. That's how the game works. So.
We'll see. I can't fault them for it. They're going to make a killing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's still Blizzard. It's still going to sell, probably millions of copies.
And it looks like a solid game from everything we've seen and some of us have played. It looks like a solid game. Other than that, BlizzCon, we had some Heroes of the Storm news. Not too much. Cool little thing with Cho'Gall. As far as everybody at BlizzCon or everybody that got the virtual ticket or whatever immediately got Cho'Gall, and if you play a certain number of matches with somebody that has that character, you will in turn get that character unlocked for free. I kind of like that whole let's pass out a new character via a virus. I kind of like that. That was a nice little marketing thing for me. A bunch of new characters shown, a bunch of
Tracer from Overwatch.
Right, a bunch of here's how we develop character panels, and seeing that it takes, what was it? I think like 16 weeks, 16 to 21 weeks to go through the whole process from original sketching to playable for testing. It was some interesting stuff. Generally, again, it's a MOBA, so Heroes of the Storm really doesn't capture me, but being free to play, I have tried it, and I jump in occasionally, something that won't happen with Overwatch. I know you were probably more interested in Hearthstone and their Explorers Leagues and everything going on there. What were your thoughts about the latest single-player adventure content being added?
My first thought was, God, they're putting it out fast.
Yeah.
I mean, they only had Blackrock Mountain June or July, I think, and then they had the expansion Grand Tournament, and now they're doing this, like tomorrow. As this episode is going live, this will probably be available for purchase in Hearthstone. So, yeah, but I mean, in terms of the gameplay, it looks interesting. It's going to be kind of like the other adventures. You have different wings for your dungeons and whatever. Face PvE bosses. You have heroic modes and whatever, and so on. So, looks pretty neat from that standpoint. The only thing again, I'll know we'll know this tomorrow. By the time it goes live, we'll know for sure. I just haven't seen any confirmation yet that you can still buy it with gold. Now,
I've seen the $19.99. That's how much it's going to cost. Going live tomorrow in the Americas, and then the morning of the 13th for our friends over in Europe. But I haven't seen anything about gold either, and I'm scrolling through the Gamepedia right now just to see if anything was updated. I mean, I've got to assume that you'd be able to buy it with gold, right?
Sure, hope so, because if not, it's going to be a massive A-bomb for me next week, I'll tell you that.
There's access, pricing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we go. Players can purchase wings using either gold or real money.
Okay, there we go.
Discount is if purchasing the entire venture at one time using real money, which is
That's how they've done
the standard. Individual wings, 700 gold.
Okay. good. Same as ever. Okay.
Yep, and then obviously there is no price point for all 4 wings, remaining 2 or remaining 3 for gold. You just 700, 700, 700, 700.
Sure.
So 2,800 gold, yeah, you will be able to get it. Good. It must have been just recently updated.
Yeah, they've really hidden that well.
All in all, what were your thoughts on BlizzCon? I was kind of like, even being a general World of Warcraft fan, I haven't been hardcore into World of Warcraft for a few years now, pretty much since Final Fantasy XIV launched. But, I mean, Legion's not coming till next fall. That's got to hurt World of Warcraft players a little bit. That's a long time to be going, considering that the last raid is already in the game.
Or they usually go about 2 years between expansions. Of course, after everyone say, "We'll get it next one out faster," we swear.
Right, right. So I mean, it's not really a surprise. Generally, though, I just kind of thought BlizzCon was meh this year.
It didn't really strike me as anything huge. I guess the biggest surprise to me was the League of Adventures coming out so soon. But other than that, it was not really that big wow moment. I guess seeing the movie preview stuff was pretty cool.
Yeah, and actually, I'll tell you what, I really just generally didn't care about the movie.
Really? Even I don't play WoW, and I'm still kind of like, yeah, I might go see that.
I saw the original stuff, and it was just so CGI that I was like, meh. But the latest ones, I was like, okay, all right, I'm kind of interested now. Because the rest were like 15-second teasers. Mm-hmm. Seeing something that was a few minutes long and told a little bit of the story and where they're going with it, I'm interested. I'm definitely going to go and see it. But yeah, I think just generally it was kind of a nice event. It wasn't we've got a big announcement, and that's because they really didn't have a big announcement. Everybody knew the WoW expansion was going to be talked about in more detail because they had already talked about it at Gamescom. So there was no real surprise moment, unless you count Overwatch going by to play as the surprising moment. All right, speaking of things like WoW and general MMOs, the fans have been waiting for it, Jason, and you have finally delivered.
You feel like you're building this up way too much.
A few weeks ago, probably about a month ago, there was a comment made on a free-to-play cast by Mr. Winter about MMO progression, leveling, that type of experience, and how it maybe just didn't even need to exist at all. There were other ways to do these things. And every episode since then, somebody has commented, I'm waiting for the article. I'm waiting for the article. You finally wrote the article. I've already read through it, but before I give any teasers, take us through your general thought on MMO progression and how you present maybe this could be done a different way.
All right, so the basic part of it that I didn't...
That was my chair, by the way. I did not break wind. Okay. That was my chair.
I guess I started by talking about Magic the Gathering and how they realized pretty early on that they were going to have to... They couldn't just make it so that everyone had to have all the old cards from years and years ago. So they introduced another way, their Type 2, which they now call Standard, their tournament structure, where you only have to have cards from the last couple sets, year, 2 years worth of cards. And that makes it so that new people can get into the game without having to buy or even just know about all those other cards from 20 years ago. And that to me is something that MMOs they've tried to do it occasionally. They've tried to make it so that it's a fairly easy learning curve for people who are new to the game after the game's been out for a little while. When the game is new, we're all excited about being in it. We're like, yeah, I'll adventure throughout Azeroth or Tyria or whatever, and I'll play and I'll gain levels and I'll go through to eventually I'll get to end game and then I'll just do all the raids and whatever. The thing is, though, not only when you make an alt, make your third or fourth alt, you're like, well, I really want to level through 60 levels or whatever before I get to the good parts of the game. And then new players are kind of the same way. They get into it, they see everyone else at level 60, they're like, well, that's going to take a long time. I'm just going to be doing, kill 10 rats quests for 3 months until I get there.
Shell out $60 for a boost, baby!
And that's the point of it. It's like, on some level, these MMOs do realize what Wizards of the Coast did with Magic, which is that people don't want to do that. They don't want to have to go through all the same stuff or go through all that, kind of boring, tedious stuff or spend money or time or whatever to get to the actual, good parts of the game. The other example I'd like to use is something like if you watch baseball on TV, you don't say, oh, I want to play baseball, and you go down to the sandlot and have to run the bases for 6 hours before you actually get to, actually play a game. You actually go to somewhere and you play the damn game. You don't do all the preparation work for it. And yes, obviously, playing Little League baseball or just goofing around on the playground is different from Major League Baseball, and that's by the same extent. But I mean that you shouldn't be playing MLG, top ranked tier matches right away, but at least let you should be able to play the core of the game. You should be able to play, some sort of interesting group content or whatever, if that's what that game's about. Should do that right out of the gate instead of having to do all this preparatory work for like 30 or 40 hours, instead of actually what the game is about. No game advertises. I just want to say no game advertises in their ads. Grind out 60 levels. No, they say play interesting dungeons, do PvP or whatever. So that's sort of my feel on it.
All right, so I get that though in like a League of Legends or a Smite or a MOBA or shooters or things like that, where there is a progression to your overall profile, but you are literally just jumping into the meat and potatoes of the game right from the get-go. How would you propose that you emulate that kind of experience, though, in something like an MMORPG, a World of Warcraft, a Guild Wars 2, something like that?
Yeah, I admit it's a little tougher in a PvE environment. I think you would have to have some sort of like starting area that does some sort of basic kind of, maybe a little bit of leveling, vertical progression, whatever, so you just kind of get used to playing the game and, know your powers and whatever. Then after that, why not have it all be essentially equivalent? Like if you take a typical game like WoW, I don't know. I'm say typical MMO. I'm not going to say I know WoW or anything. So you have maybe like a couple factions. You got maybe 2 starter zones, and then you have 10 other zones. You got your 10 to 20 zone, your 20 to 30 zone, 230 to 40 zones, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. Why do all those zones have to be separated by level? Why can't, when you get out of the starter zone, you can go to any zone you want and be able to take on whatever challenges it has?
So, ironically, I mean, you stayed away from WoW, but isn't that kind of what, I don't know if you watched the World of Warcraft panels at all, from BlizzCon. In Legion, their new expansion, they are essentially doing that with their new zone, where they've got their new continent, they've got their 5-6 zones or whatever, and there's one zone in the middle that is the end. Once you've reached the new level cap, that's where you're going to end. For story purposes, all roads push to there. But you aren't going from zone 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. If you and your buddies want to go from 1 to 5 to 2 to 6 to 4 and then into the center, you can, and it's not your character that's being scaled, it's the content that's being scaled. It sounds like they're kind of hitting exactly what you're asking for. They're just doing it 100 levels into the game now rather than from the beginning.
And that was a point that I certainly get what Zach and others were saying about SWTOR doing their level scaling thing, is that it is a little awkward when you do that sort of thing in a game that wasn't designed for it from the start. You get people complaining that, now I can't go back into my level 30 zone and dominate or whatever. So, I don't know. Maybe it's better that way. Maybe it's better that a game does it the traditional way first, and then when they realize they have to change something later on, they convert to it. But maybe it would be better instead of just admit you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. Every MMO is gonna do something like this at some point. Why not plan for it right away? And actually, I was just reading an interview with the Elder Scrolls Online, and they said they're doing the same thing in their zone, their new zone. And one of the rationale they gave, I got it quoted right here. It says, one of the biggest reasons why players can't group with one another is because of the game's level-based zones, which restricts
because our
players.
Grouping mechanics are awful. I'm sorry.
This is the same for any MMO. This can fit in any MMO. One of the biggest reasons players can't group with one another is because of the game's level-based zones, which restricts players from having a meaningful play experience if they are in a zone not designed for their level. A few updates ago, we removed the level requirement for dungeons, which was hugely popular, and now we're extending that concept to overland zones as well via DLC. And I believe this all comes from the one person who was on my case more than anyone said, well, this is a traditional part of MMOs. Why do you want to remove this? And my thought is, it's a traditional part of single-player RPGs. And in that, it doesn't matter if I have a level 10 character and you have a level 30 character in our Skyrim games, because we're not going to play together.
No.
There's no reason to worry about that. But when I have a level 10 in WoW and you have a level 30 in WoW, that damages our experience. We can't play together as friends and do stuff together like we would like. And that's the other part of it, especially. If online multiplayer games are about playing with other people, why put barriers in your game that prevent people from playing together?
Fair point. Fair point. It's going to be interesting to see how Elder Scrolls and World of Warcraft roll that out, and then obviously we're going to start seeing it in the free-to-play game space as well as it becomes more popular. I liked the idea. I kind of, when I was watching the BlizzCon stuff and watching the Legion stuff, I thought, oh, that's, you know what, I'm cool with that. It's the zone that's scale, or the quests that are in the zone scaling to me, rather than me scaling to the quests. Because I don't like the whole bolster mechanic. I don't like that in any way, shape, or form. And the first real time that I had issues with bolster mechanics was PvP in Star Wars The Old Republic. And it was just, totally turned me...
So you'd rather go in as your level 10 and get
No, I just rather wouldn't go in. I just wouldn't go in.
Well, that's part of the problem. Now you're not even going to play.
Right, I'm just not going to do the PvP. But I like the idea of... And now, generally, though, there is a story, right, with the Legion New Zone and all this stuff that's going on. But you're not confined to the story. You don't have to go through the story to unlock all of these zones. You and I could just decide, hey, we like Zone 4... aesthetically, let's go do the world quests in that area.
Sure.
Screw the story for now. We're just going to go do our own thing, and there are quests for us to do there, whether we're at level 100 or 110. The content's going to scale, and I think that's kind of right in line with what you're talking about. It'd be interesting to see that from the beginning, though. I can't really wrap my head around how you would create meaningful, difficult world content. Of course, you could do it in dungeon instances.
Sure.
But how would you create meaningful, difficult world content if in Guild Wars 2 I could go from the starting area, get 3 levels, and then just book it south, you know, and go to areas that are meant for endgame content? How do you create a meaningful, difficult world where I could possibly die if the world is constantly scaling to whatever level I am? So there's got to be some middle ground there, I think.
Well, what I see one of the big issues you have, and this is something Guild Wars 2 has certainly had, is trying to make, if you can go to any zone, whatever MMO player is going to do. What are they going to do if they have 10 zones to choose from? Which one are they going to go to?
The closest one.
The easiest one.
Yeah.
The one that gives them the most loot in the shortest period of time. And that's something Guild Wars 2 definitely has had an issue with. Their way of kind of addressing that in the expansion is each zone has its own kind of like specialized currency you get from being in that zone. And with that, that's how you buy, you know, a certain type of armor that matches with what goes in that zone, or the recipe to create it or something. I'm not sure exactly. So that's how you get people to at least go to the different zones. You offer kind of different rewards for each of them. So it's almost like treating each zone like an endgame dungeon. If you've got like 4 endgame dungeons, each of them offering their own loot rewards, people are going to go to which one that has the rewards they want.
Right.
That's maybe a way you would do that.
Right, but my point is, it's unlikely that I'm going to be in danger of dying unless I do something stupid. If a zone is scaling, if I'm level 5 and every zone I walk into is scaling to me being at level 5, I'm generally not going to be in too much danger at any point in the world.
My talk is not that you're level 5. My talk is you're level 50 right off the start. And every zone is level 50.
Okay, so totally doing away with leveling.
That's what. Yeah, that I think is the better approach. Otherwise, it's like we say, you know, it's why even have it then?
Gotcha.
I'd say you're level 1, level 2, level 3.
So you would push progression strictly to gear or stats or...
Yeah. Again, I use PlanetSide 2 as a pretty good estimation of this, in that, you know, someone who's got a ton of stuff is somewhat better, you know, vertical progression-wise than a new guy, but not like, you know, he can't take on 20 other people, you know,
right.
in a fight.
All right, well, there you go, viewers. Let us know what you think. You want to take away leveling? Get rid of that staple of MMORPG goodness
gain other stuff.
that Jason's trying to take away from us?
Yeah,
or do you agree? Maybe something a little more dynamic without that filler content that's the first 60 to 100 hours. Or 8 hours if you're one of those types of play on launch day players.
Or 8 minutes if you're someone who just bought the level boost.
Right.
Level boost.
All right, last up before we get to the bombs, let's talk a little bit, just very briefly, about Gladiators Online. I'm sure you've noticed there's a lot more first looks going up on the site for the last 3 weeks here. Again, bringing Q onto the team has freed up some resources so we can get to a lot of the first looks faster. Gladiators Online, to be fair, is one that I stumbled across and has been out for a while on its website. Although when I checked MMO Bomb, there was no first look for it, so I figured I would do it, and I was interested in the game. I've always kind of liked this idea, and I'm amazed it's we've seen the Gladiator Rome Colosseum stuff explored in a few titles, but I really like the idea of I'm in charge of a stable of gladiators. Let's try to make the most money, get the most fans, the most fame. I kind of dig that little simulation type thing.
You look like you were having a grand old time in this first look.
I won some battles.
I know that's what proves this game is terrible because the mic can win.
I went 3-0 against real players in this game. So yeah, the concept is neat. The concept is there for me. At one point in the first look, I kind of thought, well, maybe I would like this game even more if the battles weren't even part of it. If it was just that straight simulation manager. And then I guessed, oh, okay, well, but then it just becomes a basic numbers game. There is no skill involved. So I can see what they're trying to do with a battle system where skill can help you create or make up for a small deficiency in gear or a small deficiency in numbers and stats and things like that. Generally, though, I gotta say I really wasn't a fan of the game, and it's getting blasted on Steam for pay-to-win aspects. Now, I can't speak to those because I did not play the game long enough, and even in the first look I commented, hey, if you've played this for a long period of time, here are my concerns, because there's a huge timer aspect to things, as far as buying your gladiators, as far as healing your gladiators. There are timers involved. There are premium gladiators that can only be bought with the cash currency. Regular gladiators suffer from permadeath. Premium gladiators do not. They just lose fans and things. So there are elements that concern me, but I didn't play it long enough to really find out how much that impacts the game to call it straight pay to win. They were just things that I did not like about the game. I honestly, though, Jason, I gotta give this one like a 4. 4 to a 5. I was kind of disappointed with what I thought it was going to be and then what it actually was. They did just rehaul the battle system, so maybe if you played it a month ago, it's worth taking a look at now with a new battle system in there that has a few more things that you can do. Although they didn't reset existing gladiator stats, and so people had built up these gladiators to do certain things, and then they redid all of the combat, and those gladiators may not be performing as well as they once did. I don't know. I got to give it like a 4 or a 5. It wasn't visually impressive. There's a lot of meta going on with the gear and everything, and I can appreciate that from a simulation standpoint. But at the end of the day, the timers and stuff, just they were too much for me, and I quit playing. What'd you think?
That's the new battle system? I hate to know what the old one was.
That battle system that you see in the first look was put in like 24 hours before the first look.
Wow, okay. Yeah, because, I mean, that's what I was thinking when I saw it. I kind of agreed with you a little bit. I was like, okay, the simulation aspect, managing your stable of gladiators and all that, that looked kind of neat. But then I watched the battles, and I'm just like, this is like not even Street Fighter 2 from like 1991.
Right.
Like, it was less impressive than that.
It's not fluid at all.
No, I can imagine it wasn't good to play either. But just watching it, I was kind of like a poke, block, sidestep.
Yeah, it's definitely that. And but I'm 3-0, and so I'm not gonna test.
Are you gonna retire undefeated now?
I'm gonna retire undefeated. Let us know what you thought of Gladiators Online in the comments below. Let's go slide over to the weekly bombs. Jason, you're up first, sir. Since you had last week off.
Oh God, the pressure. And honestly, I kind of forgot completely about getting a bomb, so I just took it easy this week. I give it a double bomb to Total War Arena, which I played about 5 hours ago. Got my first match in finally. Something I've been looking forward to for a long time. I watch a lot of the streams. Of course, I'm a big
Total War. You're all about those games.
All about Total War. And I'll be doing a first look on it probably for next week. And yeah, I mean, I like it. It streamlines a lot of things. A little simplistic, maybe if you're a real Total War veteran, but I don't think you'd want to do a game with a hell of a lot more complexity when you got 10 people on each side. And it's going to be tough enough to coordinate stuff as it is. My team lost, which was totally not my fault. I was second in score. But yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I think it had good potential. I think it could be a pretty interesting game. It's something I'm definitely going to play a lot more. It launches in North America on the 17th, next Tuesday. So check it out.
Very good. I'm going to give a dub bomb to Final Fantasy XI. I know it's not free to play, but hey, 14 years is a long time, and as the story now winds down for Vana'diel, and the console versions come to a close this March, and the PC version kind of goes into maintenance mode, I got to give a shout out to the MMORPG that kind of started it for me as far as long-term MMORPG playing. For years, man. Years. So dub bomb to Final Fantasy XI.
You know, I want to just add to that, though, because I want to give an A bomb to Final Fantasy XI.
Oh, God.
Because I remember, here's why I was so disposed against Final Fantasy XI. When Final Fantasy IX came out, Square was trying to pump up their internet presence in preparation, because they had, I don't know.
Yeah, with Play Online.
Play Online, that's what it was.
Yeah, and the strategy guide was
the Final Fantasy IX strategy guide, which was horrible.
Yeah.
It was all like, here's the boss fight. Go to playonline.com to get the strategy on it.
Yeah, it was an awful strategy guide.
So I blame Final Fantasy XI for that strategy guide, and I hated it ever since then.
It was pretty awful. All right, I'll go with you on that, A-bomb.
Okay, good.
Pyar Round says, I've got a dub bomb this week for Brawlhalla. Being a huge Smash Brothers nerd, my interest was definitely piqued when I started seeing news about Brawlhalla several months ago. Having now played it for several hours, I have to say I'm pretty impressed. It does lack some of the mechanical complexity of the king of platform fighters. For example, instead of having a distinction between tilt attacks and smash attacks, quick and heavy attacks are mapped to different buttons. Additionally, there are no special attacks or up directional attacks. Nonetheless, it is a lot of fun just to plug in a gamepad and go at it against other players for a couple hours. Oh, and its online play is better than anything Nintendo has ever managed.
I don't know if that says more about Brawlhalla or less about Nintendo.
I think I did the first look for Brawlhalla. I got to agree
did a bomb
with
live of it, so yeah.
I got to agree with Pyar Round. It's kind of just like unplug your brain and have some fun.
Pretty much, yep. Plug in your controller, unplug your brain.
Exactly. Go for it, sir.
All right, Elusive X Treasure says, just a side note, as it happens, I'm on Ebonhawk, so I will check out Larry's suggestion. Thanks again, guys. And then the actual bomb, if you happen to see one of the ladies of the Ducatani Legacy, be sure to say hi. No, he's not the actual bomb. A bomb to another sort of auction house jerk, the guy that puts materials up one item at a time. Ugh, I've been seeing this way too much, and I think it's annoying as hell to flip through pages of onesies to get to a decently priced stack. Just want to slap those people.
Nice.
I can't disagree.
Yeah, Zach, I don't know if you watched last week's episode, but Zach kind of went off on the auction house.
I did
on
not.
one person in particular who actually commented, why don't you take the next one, since the following one
I'll
is
one.
that comment and I did the show. So
Carito PT says, got a key for Tree of Savior, dub bomb to the game. Brought the Ragnarok online feeling back. Awesome game. This is what Ragnarok 2 should have been.
A lot of people saying that one. A lot of people saying that. So if you watched last week's show, you know Zach Sharps kind of got very, very upset at a particular Star Wars, the Old Republic auction house seller. Got critified from YouTube, says, A-bomb to Zach Sharps. Hello from the progenitor. Seriously, every single day I ended up selling whole inventories of 99 stacks of crafting materials for a total of 1.5k to 500k. Just by collecting all the things while doing story 1 through 55 and constantly sending your companions to do missions is quite easy. I shall remind you, sir, that since the patch, having higher skill that required will yield you more yield you more stuff. Often with things like bio, you get 3 different things at once with a quantity of 5 to 7 each. That means you go through 11 flowers or other nodes, and you have 3 stacks full. Depending on the planet, biome, and design, 1 or 2 types of nodes are prominent and easy to get in one area. Another thing with slicing and bio, you can use these on dead beasts and droids elites of any level, which is a constant supply of nodes, as long as you wish to kill stuff. So in the end, I think your judgment was a bit off and might have hurt that player, especially if he played smart. The price will reflect the time consumed to gather it, i.e., it will be low. Also, do not forget, it is impossible to buy just a single item from the stack. You have to purchase the entire stack, even if you want a few crafting mats. Having it much cheaper makes people more willing to absorb the cost of a 99 stack and maybe resell the leftover. Another A-bomb, again to NCSoft West. I do agree with Zach, so Zach got some love and some hate on this one. I do agree with Zach, and I have been beating this dead horse so much that even flies went, get the fuck out. NCSoft has this sudden, strange release policy that will reflect either greed, desperation, or management completely new to the gaming industry, or all of them. So, yeah, Zach went way off.
Wow.
On the auction.
I gotta watch this now to get the
on people undercutting by extraordinary amounts. Question of the week last week. Trying to burn the internet down. Let's ask a basic question. When it comes down to it, do you prefer a free-to-play MMO, a subscription MMO, or a buy-to-play MMO? You were only allowed to pick one, not say, I play them all. And why? Jason, what do you prefer? Gun to your head, you can only choose one model. What's it going to be?
Honestly, I think I'd prefer buy-to-play for things that I really like.
Like a Guild Wars 2?
Yeah, I like Guild Wars 2.
Well, originally.
Something I'm know I'm going to play. And if I was like really into Overwatch, I probably would be like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. But when it's something I'm not super excited about,
I've said this often on the free-to-play casts, even on the original free-to-play casts from my first stint at MMO Bomb. I think all of us want every game to be free-to-play until we find one that we really like, and then it should be a subscription-based game. I think that's the way. I prefer a subscription-based game over even buy-to-play. I do enjoy the buy-to-play model and its perks. There's just something like I like the purity of a subscription without a cash shop, and even Final Fantasy XIV is screwing that up for me because they've got a damn.
Because of course subscription games never add cash shops. World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I know. I hate it. But I guess I prefer. I'm going to say I prefer subscription-based out of all three models. And I guess that kind of reflects in the way I play free-to-play games. I'll jump in, and if I'm digging it, I automatically just go to whatever subscription thing that they offer. Not even a question. If I'm digging the free-to-play game, they get my sub. Gesley says, you can't even imagine how happy I am when I see a free-to-play cast episode more than an hour long. Well, 2 hosts tonight. You're probably not going to get an hour out of us. And how sad I am to see episodes that are less than 50 minutes. Probably not going to get 50, but close. But regardless of the length of episode, thank you for your work. It's fun and enjoyable in every way. Well, namaste. Thank you. We appreciate that. I don't have a favorite one, but I'm playing mostly free-to-play, and I'm playing buy-to-play too. But hold on your horses before I tell you which one I prefer. And it's not pay-to-play. Once I didn't like it, haven't done again. I know most people prefer buy-to-play because it blocks out toxic parts of the community, gold sellers, etc., and mostly are better monetized. I hope I wrote that correctly. You did.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I meant the thought was expressed correctly.
Okay, yeah, we understand what you mean.
Okay. The word was not spelled right, but that's okay. Then free-to-play games. But I play free-to-play mostly because I have friends and family who don't like to pay for games so much. You simply download, play, and have some fun, even if it only lasts for a week, a month, or more. If you really enjoy a game, then buy something useful at the store or premium. Good examples, World of Tanks, Warframe, now Guild Wars 2. One more thing about free-to-play, you don't have to pay to try out the game. Otherwise, you have to play it because you spent money for it, and it's like an obligation for some time. I think that answers this question. P.S. Sorry for the grammar. Best regards from Latvia. Shout out to Latvia and Gesley, and don't ever apologize for your grammar. If English is your second language, you are speaking it much better than I speak any of my second languages. So don't worry about it.
I'm so bad with it. I don't even have a second language. I have like a 5th language. That's my next one. My 2 years of high school Spanish. Como está? Whatever.
There you go. Go ahead, sir.
All right, this comes from Pi R Round. So the question of the week, I have to say, my one model's rule them all for an MMO will be buy once and play forever. Before it's, in my opinion, completely unnecessary conversion to free-to-play. Guild Wars 2 had a perfect example of the kind of model I'm talking about. Why do I like it so much? One word, pressure. On a subscription model, you have to pay a monthly pressure. You have a monthly pressure to either buy more game time or stop playing, and usually game time wins out. With many free-to-play models, you have a lot of pressure all over the UI to get you to spend some money. Want a new character class hero but don't want to earn it the slow way? Here, you can buy it. Want your new sword or gun to be built faster? That'll be $5 to buy the smallest package of premium currency so you can spend a tiny fraction of it to instantly complete your new shiny. Warframe, as much as I enjoy you, I'm talking about you right now. Anyway, with Guild Wars 2, I never felt any of that same pressure. I could just jump in and play it to my heart's content without wanting to buy anything else. Even better, I could stop playing it whenever I wanted and never feel like I was wasting money on time I wasn't using. Yeah, I mean, that has always been an issue for me whenever I have a sub-game or have a subscription in a free-to-play game or something like that. For that month, I feel like I have to play it all the time to get my money's worth.
Really?
If I don't play it some night, I feel like I'm just lighting money on fire.
Really? Because I never felt it. Like, I get that argument, but I've never felt that. Because to me, most subscriptions are, what, 12 to 15 bucks a month, depending on if you're buying it in bulk or single months, in most cases. Some a little more, some a lot less. That's going to see a movie. And
no, no. Because I hate that argument.
Why? If I spend $15 and sit there for 2 hours to watch a movie, I don't feel like, well, unless it's a really, really shitty movie, I don't feel like I should have gotten more for my $15.
But everybody hates the price of movies these days.
Oh, everybody hates the price of everything. Everything's more expensive.
Movies are worse than everything.
Everything is more expensive than you would like to pay.
I hate using the movie comparison because everybody hates how much movies cost. Because we all remember when it was like $4 or $5 or whatever. And I hate using that as an argument. I hate.
Well, insert any entertainment that has a cost for it. You don't spend $12 to go to the roller rink and then you're disappointed that 2 hours later you're done and you feel like, oh man, that really didn't feel worth it. Or
how about I pay $60 for a game like Fallout 4 just came out? If I paid $60 for that, by the equivalent of 2 hours for $15 for a movie, that means I should get 8 hours of enjoyment out of Fallout 4.
Oh, see, but now you're talking about value per dollar.
Yes, I am.
Which is different than the feeling of being forced to play something for 15 hours so that you're getting $1 per hour of enjoyment rather than sitting back for 3 hours and enjoying it at $5 per hour.
I get more value if I play it for 60 hours in the month than if I play
Right, but why does more value make you feel like you have to play?
Because I want to get more value.
Who cares?
I do.
Who cares if you're having 50 cents per hour worth of fun or $5 worth per hour out of fun?
There's a difference between 50
There is a difference. Oh my god. Deathlock says, I prefer the sub-model of MMOs, mainly for the perks you get for them, like free monthly cards and, can't believe you, monthly currency for cash shops, even though I avoid them like the plague, and the XP boosts, among other things. That you get from them. With that being said, from a free-to-player standpoint, when a game almost forces you to get a sub because of some of the best content are locked behind a paywall, that also sucks. For example, ArcAge, no need to explain that one. But most recently, Blade and Soul for making the ability to store your hard-earned costumes in your wardrobe for premium users only. Yeah, I think all of us are going to generally agree that when you start locking content and stuff behind those, that there's a problem.
Yeah.
Go for it, sir.
All right, Silan Rudo says the question of the week. I, for one, don't play all three. I prefer free-to-play because some of my favorite games are free-to-play. I am also poor and cheap. Well, that happens.
There's always that argument. We've all been there. ABC says probably buy-to-play since free-to-play is mostly bad in quality and has to gimp the game in some way to make you buy things in the cash shop. A large portion of the genre, yes, but there are alternatives out there that do it the right way. You could never convince me to get into a sub-based game, though, because the cost and the alternatives, just not worth it.
But I do agree with them because, the cost, value, whatever.
Oh, God.
Versus...
Just read the next one!
UN says, I think the buy-to-play business model is fantastic but if it weren't for free-to-play, fantastic, but if it weren't for free-to-play, I probably wouldn't have experienced all these games in the past, even if a lot of their business models attempt to rip you of your wallet. Otherwise, I'd be broke.
Mega17, question of the week. Well, I prefer buy-to-play as it conceptually strikes the most balance between producer and consumer. Fair point. My preferences towards business model run deeper than the marketing label. It comes down to the extent of pay for power / convenience elements and the proportion of cash shop content being released versus in-game content. An example of the latter is how Guild Wars 2 is often jokingly called Fashion Wars 2. A large portion, if not the majority, of the new skins since launch have been released through the cash shop rather than through gameplay. I can't speak to that one. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a reasonable assessment. I don't totally disagree there. All right, Hans Engelman. By the way, do we have like 80,000 of these this week? Man.
Lots of people chimed in.
We might go an hour after all. Hans Engelman says, at the moment, most games I play are free-to-play because you can have a look in the game and see if it's good. My favorite, there's a free-to-play game with optional subscription that takes away most limitations.
That's one of my favorites, too. I already mentioned that. Diggy004, question of the week. Personally, my favorite model's buy-to-play, as I usually don't like cash shops and free-to-play games, while in subscription-based games, I always feel restricted to play as much as possible in a month to get my money worth. Is this you? I feel everyone.
I don't read these ahead of time. Remember, I don't read these.
I feel everyone in buy-to-play. I feel everyone will pay the same amount to play the same completed game and create an equality between players. However, in the end, it all comes down to gameplay, as I have had favorite games with all three models before.
Sure.
I think that's one of your relatives. You just had them comment.
Thanks, Diggy. See you at the family reunion. All right, Frank Tovar says, call me whatever you want, but I like subscription-based games. Well, I will call you a toadstool.
Okay.
I'm just, anyway.
Whatever you want.
That way it keeps most, if not all, the scrubs out the door. Free-to-play usually attracts a lot of not very desirable players. We all know them. Most of us hate them. Yes, you know who I'm talking about. The free-to-play flavor of the month roamers. I simply spam chat with "this isn't as good as WoW" kind of player.
Somebody's been watching Terra chat. Mingtao, I buy-to-play over free-to-play. I like buy-to-play games like Guild Wars 2 because the cash shop and buy-to-play games are fair, in my opinion. Buy-to-play games do not make me feel like I need to use the cash shop just to play the content or keep up with my friends. Foremost, I do not feel like I need to devote my life to the game in order to get something good or to have fun in the game. I also like how I can put the game down for a time and come back without feeling bad or gimped. Sure. Lots of buy-to-play goodness going on here.
Yeah. Sky Shadow says, I love free-to-play if done right. Good gameplay, good story for free to see if this fits your style. And if not, you lose nothing because it's free. It's understandable why not everything is free in the game, but that is my only little hate. The pay-to-play is a second favorite, because you have access to everything the game is offering after you get the game. If the game is not for you, then too bad for you. And the subscription, I hate it. Simple and pure hate. I see no reason for it to be an option. Guild Wars 2 proved that it is possible for an MMO to live just from buy-to-play. So why is it necessary for some games to have it? It's okay to be optional, but not mandatory. For Simple, I was so excited when I heard Elder Scrolls Online was announced. And after I found that it was a subscription-based game, my hype doped from 98 to 0 in 1 second. Well, we have some good news for you, Sky Shadow. It doesn't have a subscription anymore. So
Question of the week for next week, gang. If you had GM abilities in your favorite MMORPG, just magically, I'm going to give you some powers here, Jason. What divine power would you give your character if you could keep that power forever, and why? Only one, though. Only one power, and no wishing for more wishes. None of that stuff. Jason, where can everybody see you, sir?
Just find me on the Twitter at WinterInformal.
Also, check me out, Mike Byrne, a.k.a. Magic Man. You can follow me on Twitter at MagicMan1, MAGICKMANN1, or, of course, come on over to MMOBomb.com. Be sure to put your weekly bombs and question of the week answers in the comments, or questions for the viewers. Q, we hope to have you on next week's show with a better camera. Until next time, gang, stay safe, and we'll see you out on the servers.